Today, I invite you to join with us through a story of connection, discovery, and kinship. This is a story born from a collaborative inquiry. Roots and Stories, our living playground, at Wedgewood Junior School, where we believe that children are incredibly capable, curious, and deeply connected to the world around them. Rooted in Indigenous worldviews that honor the land as teacher, the project supports students and staff in understanding that trees are not simply objects in the environment, but as living relations that contribute to the well being of all beings through sustained observation, documentation, measurement, storytelling, and dramatization. Students explored ecological concepts, number sense, and spatial reasoning through tree measurement and patterning. By treating the trees as kin, students experience learning that is relational, reciprocal, and grounded in care, responsibility, and key principles in both Indigenous ways of knowing and Ontario's environmental education expectations. This approach nurtures ecological literacy, empathy, and climate justice awareness, while providing rich opportunities for collaborative inquiry across the curriculum. How do we explain complex systems like forests, carbon cycles, and climate change in ways that build curiosity, wonder, and hope rather than fear? Through this learning opportunity, we are deepening our commitment to the Truth and Reconciliation calls to action and specifically addressing the call to integrate Indigenous knowledge and teaching methods into our classrooms and building student capacity for intellectual understanding, empathy, and mutual respect. This 12-week project is the story of how our kindergarten to grade 5 students stepped out into the playground not just to play, but to also continue building a relationship with nature, to find a tree and to find a friend. Our guiding question was, how can we work together to observe, understand, and honor our school's trees and their stories and see them as kin? Every profound journey begins with a spark of wonder. To ignite this spark, the children were immersed in literature. We read beautifully illustrated books about forests, roots, and the silent language of trees. These stories became provocations that filled our classrooms with questions and wonderment. The children began to ask questions such as, do trees sleep? Do they talk to each other? How big is the oldest tree on our playground? We realized that truly to answer these questions, we needed to continue learning outside. We invited each classroom to explore our playground and adopt one special tree. This was not a rushed process. It was rooted in joy and play. The children touched the bark, looked up at the canopies, and eventually each class found their tree. To make this relationship visible and meaningful, and they gave their trees names. Through this simple act of naming, a profound shift occurred because the trees were no longer objects in the background of their play, but they became kin, family, friends, and members of our classroom communities. Throughout this process, each class chose their way to express their understanding as the relationships with the trees deepened. The inquiries took beautiful, diverse paths. In some classrooms, the children used the language of literacy and emotion. They composed heartfelt letters to their trees. They asked the trees how they were feeling, thanked them for their shade, and promised to take care of them. It was a beautiful display of empathy and connection. Other classes approached their tree through the language of mathematics, science, and technology, driven by a curiosity about scale and size. These students wanted to know exactly how big the tree had grown. Using a teacher's drone, the children were able to view their tree from the sky to help them measure the tree's impressive height and calculate its circumference as well. The sky became the ruler and technology became a tool of wonder. The kindergarten classes learned about their tree through play and provocations in their classrooms and spent almost every day outdoors getting more acquainted with their new friend. The grade 4 classrooms participated in sit spots and nature journaled and co-wrote and independently wrote several journal entries about their tree, including any changes that they had observed. These classes found their connection through stillness and observation, finding a quiet place at the base of their tree to simply sit, watch, and listen. They noticed the intricate trails of ants on the bark, the way the wind moved the leaves, and the shifting shadows. After these quiet moments, the children gathered together to draft journal entries documenting their observations and solidifying their shared memories. All of these inquiries, discoveries, and moments of joy will culminate in our Roots Festival taking place on the second week of May, making learning visible and sharing their learning with our community members. It will be a space to share our documentation as advocates and storytellers of their playground kin. Through wonder, joy, and play, our kindergarten to grade 5 students learned that science and empathy are not separate subjects. By observing a single playground tree, they learned about all trees. They learned to look closely, to ask big questions, and most importantly, they learned that the natural world is not something separate from us, but something we belong to. Thank you for letting me share this story.